I'm here with a man with a beard like me, which is great. And even more exciting when you watch the video later, you will see behind him are some instruments, including something with keys on it, which makes me very excited. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Andy.
And we can thank Gasky for this particular connection. Gasky, Paul Gask from Christian Vision for Men says, "Oh, Andy, have you thought about this song?" And then we connected because there's a song in the middle of all this, which we want to get to. So, first of all, what can we actually see behind you when people are watching the video later? But what can people see behind you? I can see exciting
Uh,
things, but let you talk us through it.
well, I'll talk you through. There's an electronic drum kit back here. We used to have an acoustic drum kit until my son turned about 4 years old, and he was banging them so hard, it was so loud. We said, let's save some space and save some ears and get an electronic kit. So that's that. My acoustic, my wife's 12-string guitar, which she brought over from Switzerland. She's from Switzerland. My electric and a bass. We have a piano over there and a keyboard over there.
Which makes me very happy as a keyboard man.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Come around one time and we'll have a jingle together. Yeah, a
Not to,
jam.
not to say no to that. Right now, we're together today because you've got a song which you wrote,
Yes.
which we're going to be playing at the end of this interview, which Gasky sent to me, and I just thought, I tell you what, my initial thought was, I absolutely adore the simplicity of this song. It's
Yeah.
not overproduced, it's not overcomplicated, and I found myself. It was quite late at night when I first got the video. I went to clean my teeth, and I was singing away with the words in the tune, thinking, but isn't this kind of the point of a song? Is that it immediately grabs us in some way and moves us,
Yeah.
good or bad. In my case, very good. So let's just start with that song then. Just tell us, what's the title? What's the whole thing of the song?
So the title is No Ordinary Baby, which I think was the first inspiration for it. Those were the first words that kind of came to my mind. No ordinary baby, then no ordinary king. And it's I've kind of analyzed it in retrospect, looking back at it. And I think it's for me, it's I guess a song of contrast. So it's the fact that Jesus, he was no ordinary baby, but he was still a baby. I think in the last chorus it talks about this ordinary baby, and my wife said to me, "Well, hang on, Andy, is he ordinary or is he not ordinary? Have you where are you going with this?" And I was like, "Well, it's he was both, isn't it? In a sense, this he was a baby, really born." Um, he was born in a stable. He was very ordinary in a level, and yet, we know he was more than that. There was nothing ordinary in that respect about Jesus, and it was really that contrast that grabbed me. And then as a king, he's a king, but he's not just a king. He's no ordinary king. He is the King of Kings. So, and I guess that was the hub of it. That was the initial root of the thought. And I think then that contrast then came out in the verses where it talked about the tiredness of the journey and how the negatives kind of give way to the hope and the light and all of those that good stuff as well. So it's a song of contrast. I then, because you need a bridge, right? Every song needs a bridge. So, my thoughts as I got there were just really moving. I had that picture of like the shepherds on the hillside with a heavenly host of angels singing praises and like putting that alongside this baby, this ordinary baby who's not so ordinary. And part of the reason he's not so ordinary because these heavenly hosts were there singing. And that bridge really builds and builds, and I really try to capture that excitement, that amazement, that the bigness. I don't think that's a word.
Should
Anyway,
be.
that it should be the bigness of what was going on, and then just bring us back to that big final kind of chorus, and just and I think that's probably the flipping of the words in that last chorus as well. Heaven's love came down, wearing heaven's crown, and things like that. All those cheesy rhyming words, but they just came to me. I guess appropriate time to share. I'm not really. I have imposter syndrome because I'm not really a songwriter, right? I've written two songs in my life. This is the second one. But it just came. It just came so quickly. And 2 years ago initially. So it was written 2 years ago, and I did an initial recording for it. And then for some reason, literally God knows why, I don't. This year I thought, oh, I just need to re-record a lot of this song, and so I re-recorded all the drums, some of the keyboard parts, and da da da. And at that point got a lady called Amy Shaw, Gaskey's daughter, to sing for me. Because she has a better voice than I did. I sang on the original version that I recorded 2 years ago. So I got Amy to sing it for me as well. And there you go. That's the history of the song, and where it came from. Yeah, and the meaning of some of the stuff behind it.
I will tell you off of, not for imposter syndrome. If you've written a song, you're a songwriter.
I
Done
know,
both.
I know.
End
It
of.
has been said. It has been said.
It is true. Don't put yourself down. It's brilliant. So that's where the song came from. So let's just go back a bit in time for you then as a person.
Yeah.
This is a song of faith. I know you're a man of faith. So just tell us a little bit about your faith story. How did that begin for you?
My faith story. So I grew up as for all of my life, I've grown up through church. My dad, bless him, he's still around. And he's now in the same church as we are, and that's brilliant. We love him to bits. Everybody loves him, which is great. So he always took myself and my brother along to church every Sunday. People talk. I was talking to someone recently about their conversion. And he is part of a preach as well. He was sharing how when he was 16 years old, he met Jesus, and bang, overnight, there was this transformation. And I think for a lot of us, we don't have that. I don't have that moment of that Damascus Road experience. And I've likened it over the years. I'm sure there are holes in this analogy, but I have likened it to my relationship with my Heavenly Father to my relationship with my earthly father. So I never knew a time when I didn't know my dad. And I would say the same with God as my Heavenly Father. I've never known a time when I can't remember a time when I didn't know God. And my relationship with my dad changes over time. We go through experiences together, and things happen, and we have good times, and we have times when maybe we're falling out a little bit. And the same is true of my relationship with my Heavenly Father. So there's been steps along that journey. God's really kind of moved in my career, in my relationships, so with my wife, also with our son, and kind of how that story developed. So we used to go. Sorry, I'm going to rabbit on for a while, Andy. But we used to worship in an Anglican church, and we used to go to New Wine, which is their summer conference, and we'd been trying for a baby for a few years, nothing happening. And so someone prayed for us. Actually, I think first someone had a prophetic word for us that we would have a son. Actually, it was that specific. Then at a separate meeting, somebody then prayed for us. And 9 months later, Joshua came along. And 3 months after that, we went back to New Wine the following year. And so we wrote a little letter to some of the leaders there who'd prayed for us and prophesied for us. And we just wrote them a little thank you letter just to encourage them. I think often when we share things with people that we don't know, you don't often get that feedback. So we wanted to do that to encourage them. So we just wrote them a little letter, just a little card, just explaining the history and what had happened. And they read that, and bless them, at the start of the meeting, the big meeting in the big top, they then read it out just to not only encourage them, but to encourage the whole congregation, however many thousands of people were in there. And at the end, they were like, oh, are you in the room? Are you still in the room? And my wife then stood up with Joshua, 3-month-old little boy, and held him up like he was the FA Cup. She stood there at the back going, he's here, he's here. So I very much believe God's been with us in that journey of family. Sorry, long illustration but that's a big way, that God's moved with us. Can see how God's moved in difficult times as well. Often we look, in retrospect and can look back and see how God's carried us, and even in the moment, there are times when God's helping me through this. So yeah, that's the I was going to say short version. I'm not sure if it was short, but that's the short version of my journey in faith. So I grew up. I'm a Christian. I don't. I grew up in a Methodist church. We then went to an Anglican church, and now we're at I would say, a free church. We're aligned with the Ground Level Network, which kind of was based out of Lincoln, not too far from Hull. So that's where we are now. But I'm not really denominational. I'm a Christian first and foremost. So yeah, that's who I am.
I love that story, and I say it's frequent when I do these interviews. But my wife has a very dramatic conversion experience. For me, I was in a church. I went to church. I was always in church. It was normal to be in church, and
Yep.
I've never really looked back on that faith ever. I don't think I've ever turned back on it. I've had periods of doubt and questioning, but
Okay.
actually, it's always been part of my life. I know at 7 I made a decision to follow Jesus. That was my personal decision. But I think, like you and like so many, actually, you're in that church context, and yeah, it needs to be more than an encounter. There needs to be a conversion that happens. There needs to be some sort of change of
Mm,
life.
mm, mm,
But
mm.
actually, I think for many people, there isn't that dramatic conversion. And you know what? I think that's okay.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I was speaking to the guy who shared his story when he was 16, and he was in many respects. So I guess I went through a phase where I would look at those stories, and there'd almost be a not jealousy, but or envy, but like I wish I had that. And actually, he just completely turned it around. It's like, no, I wish I had that because I had 16 years of not knowing, and they were not good years. And I've seen the transformation. I wish I didn't have those 16 years. I wish I didn't have that massive turnaround. So it works both ways.
I think it does. So you have written a song. You're a
Yes,
song writer with an
apparently,
exclamation mark.
apparently.
And tell us a bit about your day job then, because how does that impact into your faith? What's your day job?
So my day job, I'm an accountant.
Awesome. We need accountants.
We do need accountants. So many years ago, I was an accountant at Denby Pottery, which is the one place I've worked which people would know. So I worked at Denby Pottery, and people used to ask me back in the day, "What do you do for a living?" I'd say, "Oh, I work at Denby Pottery." Oh, that's interesting. What do you do? I said, I stick. You've got one. I don't. I only have a glass, but my answer was, I stick handles on the teacups. Oh, that's really interesting. How do you do that? Well, of course, I've been in the factory, right? So I know. So, well, you get this liquid clay and you stick the handle in, and then you get the cup, and then you have to line it up and stick it on. Da, 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 da. Go through the whole story. And oh, wow, that's really, really interesting. How long have you been doing that? I says, actually, I don't do that. I'm an accountant there. And then the conversation goes quiet. It's just not very interesting. So no, so I'm an accountant. It's my day job. I think it I use it primarily. It is one of my mission fields, you would say, I would say, but it's tent making, right? So it's the Paul tent making concept, and I've been through phases where I've not struggled with it, but it's led me to question it. So to illustrate, I have a niece who married about 10 years ago, married an American. She's Swiss. My wife's from Switzerland, so it's a niece on her side of the family. She married an American, and they were missionaries in Guatemala. And we went to visit them, I think in 2018. We went to go and visit them. And I saw how they lived. I saw the commitment. I saw the whole. He'd lived there since he was 8 years old, and I was really challenged by it. I was like, "Whoa!" The whole of their life. It's not a day job. It's not from their house. They moved. His parents moved the whole family over to Guatemala in the middle of nowhere, right? And it was like an 8 hour drive from the airport to get to over bumpy roads, and it was an experience. Um, yeah, and we were there, and I just thought, this is worlds apart. This is just, they were doing it for Jesus, but they'd gone to the other side of the world. Well, not the other side of the world. They'd gone a long way away, different country, could well be the other side of the world. And it did challenge me. For a while, I was like, okay, and I'm an accountant. Um, in a business by that side. That wasn't at Denby when we went there. It was in a company that made yarn for car seats. I mean, how exciting, right? And I was like, I'm an accountant in a company that makes yarn for car seats, and these guys are missionaries serving Jesus. And how do I square that off? Um, I'll say in some, it's the tent making, it's the responsibility of what we do with it, the money that we earn, how we are, what we do with that, a responsibility to be generous, if we're able to be so, to use our homes. So we help run, well, we are leaders in a life group, so we always meet at our house. So it's using what we have to share with others and to bless others. And also then, being that positive influence in the workplace, which is, fundamental. We're just in our church, we're just running a course called Growing Leaders. And in that course, part of the aim is not to just help us to equip people to be leaders in church, but we're also leaders and influencers in our Monday to Saturday as well. And I think that's really that's important. That is our primary mission field, unless of course we're working in for the church. So yeah, that's my day job and my reflections on my day job.
However, and I say this a lot too, people will listen to you in your job because you're an accountant. If they're an accountant, more they will listen to me, who's running a radio station, because
Yep.
already you've got that point of reference where you both understand accountancy,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
in spheres of influence that I will never be able to be.
Correct.
And that's why what you're, I always, I've been in church ministry as well full time, but I always say to people, where God's placed you,
Yeah.
you have a mission field. Yeah, you might see me at the front doing stuff, but this is my mission field, right? And your mission field is where you are, and you
Yeah.
can go places that I will never get to.
Correct.
And that's why God desires you to be there. So there's no
Yeah.
better or worse place to be in the kingdom apart from as long as you're serving God.
Yeah. Exactly. And it is a 7-day, 24/7 thing. Well, I guess apart from when we're asleep, right? So it's maybe not 24/7, but it is a 7-day week thing that we're doing. That we're living 7 days. So yeah.
And it's true. So just tell me, how did you get Gasky's daughter? Because he sent me another video link of her doing something more with somebody else. I've forgotten the name of the video. I think it was Oh Holy Night. I
Oh,
think they were
Holy
doing,
Night. Yeah. Yeah.
which was amazing. How have you connected with Gasky in order to be able to ask his daughter, could you please sing on my song?
Well, we go to the same church. So
Oh,
there
there
you
you
go.
are.
So back in the day, so we were both part of originally both part of an Anglican church, local to where I live. We were both in that church. She sang in the worship team there. I was leading that worship team for about 15 years, I guess, that I was leading worship in that church. We relocated our church. We moved from that church to another one for various reasons. And a couple of years later, totally unrelated, his daughter also moved and came to be at the same church again. And so now I'm one of 3 worship leaders at the church where I'm at. And she is one of the singers there as well. And she, as you say, she has an amazing voice. And so it's just great to have that connection. And Gasky kind of, I don't know him that well, but we know each other, and there is that bit of that connection when he comes to visit her, and he's a great guy. And so that's the connection through there, and I'm just fortunate to have. I mean, as a worship team, we're very fortunate. We have lots of, as I guess lots of worship teams are. They're very blessed, with lots of talented people, lots of gifted people. Not every church can say that. I appreciate that, but lots of them can. We're small. We're at 200, about just under 150 to 200 in our congregation. In our Anglican church, there was less than that, probably 80 to 100, and yet we still had a great worship team. And it is about team.
Amen. And one question that I think I need to ask. So your wife is originally from Switzerland. Was that right?
Yes. Yeah.
How did you two meet? How did an Englishman and a Swiss lady meet?
Hey, good question. There you go. Right, how long have you got?
As
So
long as you want.
basically, it was what was the film? Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan. You,
You've got mail.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it was that in real life. So bear in mind, so we've been married for 23 and a bit years. So I'm going back to 1999. So internet. So doing this, forget it back then. So back then but it was on the internet. So we met on a Christian chat page. It wasn't a dating page. Neither of us were looking for a relationship. It was just a place to chat with people all around the world who were Christians, who had shared values. We started chatting. We started chatting some more. We started chatting longer, some more. We started chatting in our own little private chat room as part of the main one, and it grew and grew. And in the end, so she ended up. I hope she didn't mind me sharing this to the world. But anyway, we're very open. We're very transparent. So in the end, she realised she was. I think the phrase was emotionally occupied. Right. So she was like, I'm not really looking at anybody else because I'm so kind of focused on this guy in England who I've never even met, never even seen. I think we'd maybe shared a photo, sent a photo or something, but that was it. So about 6 months after we first started chatting, I went over to Switzerland and met her. That went kind of well, kind of not. She, yeah, I'm not going to go there. It wasn't a great first impression that I made. Let's put it that way. But she reconciled with. Can't believe I'm telling you this. She reconciled with that. She came over to England. And then we ended up basically traveling about every 2 weeks. We would fly one to the other, one to the other. And after about a year of that, I proposed, and on the second time of asking, she said yes. Because, I mean, it's funny, but also, you do realize she's from Switzerland. We came to live in England. Switzerland's beautiful. England's wet and cloudy and rainy. So, she wasn't just saying yes to Andy. She was saying yes to a whole load of other stuff. So yes, it was a big ask. But she's great, and she's still with me. She's still here and still toughing out rainy England. And there you go. And that's our story. That was so we got married May 2001. So yeah, 23 and a half years.
Fab. Obviously, your first not so great impression wasn't that bad because she stuck around long enough to say yes.
Yeah, she warmed to the idea in the end. Praise God, because otherwise there'd be no Joshua. And yeah, yeah,
But this is part of your story, right? Because
yeah.
our lives are not these wonderful, I'm going to meet God, and this lovely linear line of everything getting better. That's not how life works.
No, and I think that's a fallacy. It's a lie of the enemy, if you like. We think, and I think, I said about being transparent. I think it's important we're very open with that. That coming to faith does not mean life's going to be rosy. It means there's somebody to walk through it with us.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we won't go through those difficult times, and we do all have them. Like life is a challenge, for all of us, whether we have faith or not. But with faith, we've got somebody to walk through it with. That's the difference. Yeah, so it's good, and she's in a good place. Joshua, our son, he's in a good place. So he's got his own faith. He's away at university, so we hardly see him, but he's got his own story to tell, and he's musical as well. So he's a chip off the old block, and yeah, he's got something to learn still from his old man. But
Do we ever stop learning? I don't think so.
no, good point. I should be more teachable. I do know that. That's one of my faults, is just that soft heart to keep, because it is important, and to keep reaching out and like doing this song. I said it was 2 years ago that I initially did it. I've not written a song since, and that's part of the challenge actually, that to keep learning and to keep learning what's next and what can I do next to what's God's will next? I mean, I do think the song was birthed. I don't want to be over spiritual about it. I do think it was birthed. It was a gift from God that He gave me, because I'm not inherently okay. I accept the fact that I'm a songwriter because I've written a song, but I'm not inherently in my blood a songwriter. It's not. I'm 56 years old and I've written 2 songs 2 years ago. So that's an area for me really to explore what happens with that next. And people have been encouraging and like, oh, you need to write more. And well, I don't sit down in a room and go, with a notepad, let's write a song. It's just God just gave me a couple of songs a couple of years ago, and it's having that ear still to be open to what's next. So watch this space.
Amen. I remember listening to Chris Eaton, who, of course, if you don't know who he is, he wrote many of the songs for Cliff Richard, and he was doing a talk in Wolverhampton, performed some songs. And one of the things I loved about what he was talking about, and this will date it very quickly, he said, yeah, people send me through the post all these cassette tapes of the songs that God has given me.
Yeah,
And I can see why he's given you them, because they were awful to start with.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
why are you giving them to me? And
yeah,
I mean, I'm paraphrasing slightly
yeah, yeah.
for the sake of it, but I think that's the point. We get these gifts, but actually some of them are gifts, and some of them for us, and some of them need to be shared. But if we don't have an opportunity and actually be willing to let others hear a song, or to read a poem, or to see a painting, then
Yeah.
if we don't allow ourselves to be open to criticism, we
Yeah.
can't allow this gift to
Right.
reach somebody else.
Absolutely. I mean, it's vulnerable, right? I mean, I will stand and play a keyboard in worship on a Sunday morning. I'll play keyboard for anybody. I really don't mind. I'm totally relaxed about it. And I'll just play, right? It's not an issue. I might even sing, but I don't really consider myself a great singer. But I don't mind doing that. I lead worship. I sing, right? But doing a song that you've written, it's so much more personal. It's something of me. And if we need to let go of that. If you don't like the song, you don't like me. That I think that's the fear. That's the where we don't want to go. That's just not healthy. But it is vulnerable. It is vulnerable because it's something of us. It's something I created by the grace of God. I created with His help. But it is something that we create, and therefore we hold it quite tight. And one of the principles I've said is I want to hold it quite loose. That I don't want to grab onto. That's my song, and that's great, and it's wonderful because that's not. It's not my character anyway. It's not who I am. But the flip side of that is what do you do with it, right? So that's the dilemma as well, right? Being a guy who just plays worship on a Sunday morning, suddenly to have a song is like, why? And now what? So you put a little video together, get somebody to sing on it because they sing better, and put a little video, put it on YouTube. And then what? Why? God, why did you give me this? What are you going to do with it? And honestly, I don't know. I don't have a clue. All I can do is obediently kind of do my best with it and then put it out there and hope it blesses somebody. And I hope it touches somebody. I hope it gives somebody different perspective of what Christmas is. Of this, it's such a familiar story, right? But what's a different angle for us to look at and to appreciate something new from it? And hopefully there is something in there, something in the lyrics that would just trigger in somebody and go, "Oh yeah, that touches me." I had some comments a couple of years ago on the initial video. It's like, it moved me to tears. And I think in a good way, not by the way, not not in a bad way. So, and that's good, but it's not for the compliment. I don't need a pat on the back. I don't want to sell it. You can't buy it. It's at this point in time, it's not out there. It's not. You can't go on Spotify and stream it because it's not on Spotify. It's just on a YouTube video because I don't want to. It's not for Andy to make money. It's just hopefully the right people, somebody somewhere will hear it, that it will mean something to, and it will help them at whatever stage of the journey they're at. Full
Yeah.
stop.
I guess with Chris Eaton getting all those songs, some of them would have not been good. Some of them would have been amazing and inspiring.
Yeah.
But and I like the fact that people kept on sending him stuff because obviously they thought, well, here's my little gift from God. But the thing is, if it's God's gift to you to give, then you need to share it. And even if it's awful to somebody else, that's not the point. I remember, I think I shared this recently. I was in a church, we set up a worship group, and someone said, oh, that organist, he's terrible, isn't he? And I actually took them through why I didn't think this guy was terrible, even though he played loads of bum notes, because I shared the story of why he was playing so badly. And he was. But he was playing with his heart because his wife had been the organist for 50 years.
Yeah.
She died. And because she was quite kind of forceful in that context, he never played the organ for like 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
When she died, he took up the organ again. Well,
Yeah.
if I have a 50-year gap from doing something, I'm going to be a little bit clunky,
Yeah.
And I said, the reason why I love this guy's heart, I don't care about the bum notes because you know what? His heart comes through those bad notes.
Yeah.
And it's not about how excellent he plays.
Yeah.
It's about how much of his heart he gives, and
Yeah,
he's giving everything. Because I heard him practicing, and he got better and better and better.
yeah,
Yeah, on a Sunday, stick him against a proper organist. No, he's no good at all.
yeah, yeah.
But that's not what God's asking us to give, is it? He's not asking us to give excellence. He's asking us to give our heart.
Our best and our best that we can, and I think that's it. I love what you just said, where he was there and practicing away because he invested in what he did. He wasn't perfect, but he tried his best,
Yeah,
and he invested in himself and tried to improve. Brilliant, but yeah, we're not perfect. I always I will I can guarantee every Sunday I will hit some bum notes when I'm playing. Absolutely, and I don't stress over it. We're not perfect. We're not. Jesus was perfect. I'm not. We'll do his best, and as I say, we invest in it. We try to be as good as we can. But I usually have a good laugh as I hit some bum notes and look around the room. It's the game of looking around and seeing who spotted it.
yeah. I played that game too. It's quite good fun.
It
Right,
is.
Andy, thank you. It's been a pleasure to meet
No,
you. I'm grateful that Gasky says, "Oh, what about this?" And this is the thing. It's an invitation. It's a name, and it's somebody I can meet, which is great. We're going to play the song as soon as this interview finishes. But thank you for writing it, and thank you for being willing for people to criticize it. Because
yeah,
unless you're willing for people to criticize it, people
yeah.
can't enjoy it.
Exactly. Exactly. No, it's good. I mean, it went through a few stages of bouncing it off people who I trust and respect and could receive that criticism, and changed a lot of bits on the back of that as well. But yeah, it's as I say, hold it loosely, let it go out there, and let God take it wherever He will take it.
So, would you like to introduce the song, which is going to come as soon as this interview finishes?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm Andy Beighton. This is No Ordinary Baby. I hope it will bless you and touch you and give you a new perspective on Christmas this wonderful Christmas season.